Hello, everyone. Welcome into Simply Life. I'm Keith Casebolt, my dear friend Gary C. Johnson, with a guest.
Yes, today we have with us Angie Owens. Angie has worked with me now for about 21 years,
Yes, sir.
and I wanted to introduce Angie to all my friends. She's here full-time in Pikeville now. So, Angie, welcome.
Well, thank you, Gary. I am so happy to be home.
This is wonderful, isn't it?
Absolutely. The mountains kept calling and I had to come find them.
So now, how many years have you actually been a lawyer?
I've been a lawyer 25 years now, Gary.
It seems like only yesterday, doesn't it?
I was a baby. I was a mere baby.
Well, I know that to be true because I knew Angie when she was just a mere baby because I met you way back in 1982 from your hometown of Elkhorn City.
Absolutely, Elkhorn City, and I want to give a shout out to all my good buddies up there in Elkhorn City that have made me so welcome and made me feel welcome and bring me supper in the evenings, and it's just been a great experience as I've been home.
Now, before you became Angie Owens, you were what? Angie Pergram.
Angie Pergram, yes, I was.
So who were your parents?
My parents were Fayetta and Doc Pergram, and my grandfather was an old coal company doctor in Elkhorn City and worked throughout the coal camps, went to houses and delivered babies, and his wife, my grandmother, was his nurse, and that's how my father actually got by the name Little Doc. And my father worked at Road Creek for over 30-some years in the mining industry, in the mines.
So you got this coal mining in your blood, huh?
Absolutely, it runs deep.
Well, Angie, I wanted you to come on so the folks would know, that my friends out there, that you are back in Pikeville.
Thank you, Gary.
That you're here
Thank
full
you.
time. You're practicing over at the office.
Absolutely, and loving it.
And so thanks. And I would keep you longer, except there might be work that you need to be doing.
There's some work for me to do, Gary Johnson.
Angie, thank you so much for stopping in.
Thank you, Keith, for having me.
And welcome back.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much.
And you can also catch Angie on one of the upcoming TV shows. She plans on being with us.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to see her. Not only hear her, but see her.
You get to see what she looks like.
There you go.
Uh-oh.
All right,
Okay,
Angie.
Angie.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
bye-bye.
you so much, Angie.
And thanks, everyone, for tuning in to Simply Life. So, Gary coming in with a guest. We don't often have guests because normally it's just Gary and me in the little room and our coffee cup and of course you here, our friends, talking with us. So it's good to have guests and it's good to have friends.
I think that may be the only time we've ever had a guest.
I think you're right, 100%. Yeah, I'm not used to it after 20 years.
Today, we are going to talk a little bit about hope and fear.
Oh, I think everybody in the car just said, well, I've got both of those. I've got hope, but unfortunately, I've got fear.
And I'll let you know where that title came from. I asked Angie, I said, Angie, what should we talk about today?
Mm-hmm.
And she thought for a minute and she said, hope and fear. And I said to myself, now, why would Angie say hope and fear? And I realized it was because she just made a transition.
Mm-hmm.
She transitioned back to the Pikeville office. And she had I'm sure, had all kinds of hope.
And?
Had to fight the fear.
And to fight the fear.
Now, and that's what we all do.
Because of change?
Change.
Yeah. And Gary, that applies to everything in our lives, doesn't it?
It's everything. It's every aspect. It's everything we do. So I'm just we're using that as an example today for my friends to understand that they go together. Anytime you have hope and you're going to make a change, you're going to have to fight the fear that comes with it.
Now, that goes back to that little voice in your head, right?
That chatterbox.
That chatterbox
Better
who's
known
saying,
as Slick.
Oh, yeah, Slick. Yeah, Gary and I were talking the other day, and he's talked about this chatterbox for so long, and the great Joe Namath, the quarterback for the Jets that won the Super Bowl, he talked about the little voice in his head, and he said, I named him Slick. He said, because he is so good. I mean, he can talk you into it, talk you out of it, never takes any blame. And he said, "Oh, slick is really hard to deal with."
And my friends, every day, each and every one of you deals with the chatterbox, or as Joe Namath said, slick.
Yeah.
And you have to fight it. You have to, the fear that the chatterbox will bring when you're trying to make a change and go forward and realize your hopes and dreams, you have to deal with the chatterbox and the fear.
It's odd you brought up this subject, hope and fear, because I was just talking with an individual the other day that had planned a vacation, and all they were talking about was the shark sightings and the people that had been attacked by a shark, and then they found out that there was some kind of bacteria on the beach, and then they were worried about flying, and I was listening to all of these fears as opposed to the person saying, we're going on this wonderful vacation, we're going to have a great time, we're going to take pictures, we're going to make memories. It's right there, isn't it? They're so close together, hope and fear.
And I literally blame that on the internet and social media.
Are we getting too much information?
Because years ago, you would have not known about any of those things, and you would have gone out and had your wonderful vacation.
Mm-hmm.
But now, all that fear, 1 out of 100 million people may get that bacteria.
Yeah.
So they scare everybody into ruining their vacation with those fears.
I think the chance was 1 in 12 million to actually see a shark.
Right.
Not to be bitten, but to see one. But yet you're paralyzed by that.
And it messes with people's vacations. I mean, with their life, fear.
I always go back to what you used to tell me. What can you do about it? If there's nothing you can do about it, then why are you getting upset?
Well, it's hard to not get upset with how you're bombarded with it. And that's the tragedy of it. Just remember, my friends, in the end, you will live and you will die. And you will have a dash in between. And it's not much of a dash.
Pretty small when you think about it.
So you have to try to control your fears. And you have to understand that you have the gift of life. The gift of life, my goodness. That you were chosen to be born. That you are exactly the way the good Lord meant for you to be. You look exactly the way the good Lord meant for you to look.
Gary, let me ask you.
You're unique, and that you have the right to be happy and to have some peace of mind and contentment.
You mentioned that you blamed it on the social media and the information that we're getting. Is there a stat out there that says we respond to fear greater than we do hope? Are we intentionally being bombarded by fear in order to control our actions, or am I just going too deep on that?
If you could get fear out of my friends that are listening's lives, you would be amazed at what they would accomplish. My friends, I'm going to say that again.
Mm-hmm.
If we could get fear out of your lives, the world would be amazed at what you could accomplish.
But now we're going to have friends that say, well, Gary, you got to have some fear. I mean, isn't some fear healthy for you?
Going down a dark alley in the middle of the night, you should have some fear, okay?
But
let's talk about fear.
Yeah.
We can control our fear. Now, let me tell you why I know that. You get in your car and you drive down the road every day. Now, an intelligent person that analyzed the danger of getting in that car and driving down the road wouldn't get in that car.
Be scared to death if you looked at the statistics.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's dangerous. Yet we put it out of our mind. We don't think about it. It's totally under control, and we enjoy the drive. So, yes, my friends, you can control your fear.
You know, I'm just sitting here thinking as you're talking. Here you are in a vehicle that weighs thousands of pounds. You're doing 60 miles per hour down the highway. Here comes another vehicle toward you in another lane, thousands of pounds, doing 60 miles per hour, and you're going to pass each other within a couple of feet. Now, that would be very fearful. But you're right. We get in the vehicle.
You don't think anything about
We
it.
don't think about it at all.
So, my friends, your job this week is to take your hopes and your dreams, conquer your fear, go forward and make changes just like Angie did.
Mm-hmm.
Change. And remember, to change is to grow. To have changed often is to have grown much. One of my favorite sayings I ever saw anywhere, because it is so true.
So you're saying sometime in the future we could do a show that is called Hope and Hope, and we could eliminate the fear.
You'll never eliminate the fear, but you have to, if my friends could just take it into consideration and look at it objectively
For what it is.
for what it is and say, I'm not going to let it control. I'm going to go forward. I'm going to go realize my dreams and hopes. I'm going to make these changes in life that I need to make, and I know I need to make them. That even my chatterbox has told me I need to make them.
Yeah.
At the same time, he tells me I need to make these changes, and I know I need to make them. He tells me how dangerous it is for me to make them.
You know, I had a conversation with a businessman who owns, 60 or 70 restaurants, and he was telling me the story about putting his first restaurant in and how he had gone all in and borrowed to the hilt to do it. And I asked him the question, I said, weren't you afraid that it might not work? And he said, I never really thought about that. And I thought that was so unusual because we're talking about fear, and yet this individual took a leap of faith and said, I never really thought about it failing.
That's the key to it. Conquer the fear and go forward.
Now, what bothers me about this conversation is I can sit here in my own life and say, I missed out on this opportunity because of fear. I didn't do this because of fear. And I'm wondering about our friends right now that are sitting there saying, I could have done this, but it was fear. I should have done this, but it was fear. You're telling us it's never too late to turn that around?
And if you let fear take over and it causes you to lose hope, then you're setting yourself up for a life of misery, when you need to be setting yourself up for a life of happiness and enjoying the dash.
What was that quote you had by Henry Ford? Was it, if you think you can?
If you think you can, or if you think you can't, you're right.
Both ways. In other words, if you keep telling yourself bad things are going to happen,
They'll happen.
they'll happen.
If you keep telling yourself good things are going to happen, they'll happen. It's all in your mind.
And
And it's in your control, my friends. You have control of your destiny. You say, no, but. Deal with those buts one at a time and get those buts out of your life if you need to.
Yeah.
But deal with it. Conquer your fears. Understand that you would not have been born had you not had the ability to be resilient enough to live life and enjoy it. It's given to you. You may never have exercised it. You may never have said, yes, I have these talents and these things I can do, but they're there.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one of you has something special that you have to offer. There's no question about that. It is indisputable that every single one of you has something special to offer. Now, somebody else may have beat it down on you to where you don't believe it. I'm saying take it back.
Yeah. You may not realize it. You talked about this a couple of years ago, and I was at a table with individuals, and they were doing a little thing about each one had to say a trait or a talent that the other person had, and without a doubt, that individual each time didn't know it. When people would go around the table and say, "You're very talented at this," or "I wished I had the ability that you had here," they would all say, "I didn't realize that."
That's right.
So we don't actually acknowledge the gift or the talent that we have.
Out of fear.
What if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong?
That's right.
Then, I'm going to be made fun of.
But once my friends, and I believe they're getting there, I really do, come to understand their place in life and the uniqueness they have,
Mm-hmm.
that we will be well on our way to achieving our goal, which the goal of this program is to be happy. We announced that.
Sure.
We said Simply the Life, the goal of this program is for our friends to be happy. Simple.
You know what gets me, Gary, and we were doing a television show the other day, and that kind of on the subject. There's been times in my life that this fear and this chatterbox, I've got so worked up over something. I turned what would be a anthill into a mountain, and I would be in such a frenzy, and I would sit down and talk with you about it, and you'd go, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, you know the answer, go ahead and take care of it. And you would walk out of the room, and I would be like, how did I get so worked up? How did I get to the point to where I had all this fear and I was in a frenzy when really it wasn't a big deal at all?
One of the foremost, literally, probably the recognized jury consultants in the nation, and his partner, and they had an employee. So they called me to ask me what I thought they ought to do about this employee.
Mm-hmm.
And then they started telling me all of this stuff. And you know what my answer was?
No.
I said, you just told me what the answer was.
In other words, you answered the problem yourself.
That's right. They knew what they needed to do.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Without a shadow of a doubt, they knew. But they were going to ask me my opinion.
And what is that for? Is that for the confidence, the backup, so it came from somebody else, it didn't come from me?
I guess. And most of my friends out there that end up in a situation like that, when you're getting ready to ask someone something like that, you already know the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And you probably know what you ought to do. So go ahead and do it.
So you're just saying, come on, let's simplify this. If we want to lose weight, we exercise more, we eat less.
And eat less, that's right.
If we want to get a hold of our finances, we spend less than we're bringing in.
Right.
If we're in an unhappy situation, we get out of it and we move to a happy situation.
And if we've got somebody in our lives that's making us miserable, we plot and plan to get out of it. It may take a while, but you get a plan.
You actually apologized when you first said that. You said, some people are not going to like this advice I'm going to give, but if there's somebody in your life that's making you miserable, withdraw permission and get away from them.
Except for your children.
Yes, that's the
one time you can't withdraw permission.
Right.
Any other time, you can do it.
I think that's probably the most powerful thing that you've ever said on the show, that you have the right to withdraw permission from other people to make you unhappy.
It is so simple, we don't know it.
Well, it's simple now that you see it, but up until you said it, I didn't see it because the arrows would be coming in and they would be hitting you. But once you said that, it was like a force field went around you, and those arrows just kind of pinged and fell to the ground because you withdrew the permission.
I've said it many times is anything in life is simple if you know how to do it.
Boy, isn't that the truth?
And even the most simplest thing can be extremely complicated if you don't know how to do it.
Yeah, when my youngest son says, "Come on, Dad, you've got to know how to change the TV to get it onto Netflix." No, I don't. I mean, it's easy for you, but it's not easy for me. I'm sure it's simple.
It is.
Well, it's not for me, I can tell you that much.
But, and that's life. The same way with life and living.
So the more information that we get and the more that we understand, the easier it is to handle these situations.
And the more we're able to deal with and conquer our fear of the unknown, our fear of change, our fear of the deal, what if? And when the chatterbox gives you a what if, it's always negative.
Always.
It's never, what if this happens and you're going to be famous and happy and all this. You don't hear the chatterbox giving you that. You hear the chatterbox saying, what if you make a mistake here? Boy, what's going to happen to you now?
But what I love about that chatterbox is once you get through that valley of darkness and you come out on the other side and you make it, then that little voice comes up and goes, I told you it'd be all right. I don't know what you were worried about.
There was a quotation I said on here a few months ago. The path to your greatest accomplishments will always travel through your greatest fear.
Yes. Yes.
On your path to your greatest accomplishments, you will have to pass through the path that has your greatest fears.
Gary,
Always.
Confronting this fear, and tell me if I'm on the right track, it's helpful and easier if you have people around you, confidence, people that you trust, people that are your group, your circle, or whatever that support you, because those numbers make it a little bit easier to confront those fears, don't they?
You always need a team. And most teams are two.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, the team that faces life is a man and a woman.
Husband, wife, absolutely.
Husband and wife. But you always need the team because with the strength of both parties to that team, it makes life so much easier.
And if you're fortunate enough to add to that team a great friend or
some good co-workers,
a coworker, a mentor, somebody that is there for you, that you have a long-standing relationship with, wow, you're in the top 1% to have that kind of support around you.
Then you have a really good shot at happiness.
Yes, because you've got that support you need to conquer the fear. I get it when you're by yourself. Listen, I don't care who you are. You talked about not going down a dark alley. Go to a big city and be beside yourself, walking by yourself. You feel vulnerable. You're alone. But if you're there with friends in a group, you feel protected.
You got support.
And it's no different in what you're saying in daily life, is it?
Well, again, go back to the dash. You enhance the dash immensely with people. Remember, my friends, always, people are more important than money. Money will not make you happy. People will.
One of the greatest things you ever said to me is, I said, no, Gary, people say, oh, money don't make you happy. I said, normally that's people who's got a lot of money that's saying that. And you looked at me and said, who in the hell do you think knows?
It's them.
It's the people that have the money. They know because it didn't bring them the happiness.
Yeah, you look at all the famous people that commit suicide, major depression, in and out of rehab, miserable beyond their wildest imagination. Out here, you got a job, you got a family, you get to go to church, you have some good meals, you have your family around you. You're rich.
Much richer. Yeah. You've got a unit. You've got your tribe, your people, whatever you want to call it, but you've got happiness.
That's right. You got a shot at living the full extent of the dash. And you probably don't have very many fears.
Probably not.
So, my friends,
Mm-hmm.
my friends definitely this week are going to think about fear and hope.
They go together.
They go to hand in hand. Fear will kill hope.
Every time.
Hope will conquer fear.
If you
Depends on how you choose to do it.
don't let that fear take away your hope and knock you out of being everything that you can be, especially happy.
Go for it, my friends. I'll be amazed.
What a great lesson. I mean, it really is a great lesson. You can catch Gary's television program on WYMT, your CBS affiliate, 7 o'clock on Tuesday nights. And coming up, you're going to see that we've had some change with the new set, and that involves some hope and fear as Gary and I are doing the program now in a different surrounding and setting.
Without our table.
Yeah, without our table that we were so comfortable for. So please tune in. Tuesday night, 7 o'clock on WYMT in Eastern Kentucky. A late-night replay is on WKYT, your CBS affiliate in Central Kentucky. If you have any questions for Gary, you can contact him at GaryCJohnson.com or simply call the office. My friend, this was a good lesson, and for those who maybe didn't tune in early, Angie Owens back with you here in the Pikeville office.
And thank you, Angie, for giving us our topic.
Hope and fear.
Yep.
On behalf of Gary C. Johnson, I'm Keith Casebolt. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. As always, Gary and I look forward to seeing you again next week at this very same time.